Hey YouTube, Travis here. Is this a common sight underneath your moped, even after you've turned the petcock off? So I just got in an upgrade used carburetor for this Puch Maxi. It's an E50 and the carburetor in question is a 14 Bing. And I don't like my gasoline being all over the ground. So today, we're going to fix a leaky Bing. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is remove the carburetor. Whoosh. That was easy. Alright, just kidding. If you'd like to see an in-depth removal of the Bing carburetor, check out my other video on Bing carbs. I'll link it in the YouTube annotation as well as in the video description. The big difference from the other video is removing the throttle cable from the twist grip up here. I was running a really crude and funky throttle setup at that time. Now I have a proper twist grip, probably looks a little bit like yours. What you're going to do is undo the two electrical connectors for the brake light, and then you might need a little bit of muscle for this if it's never been removed before. I'm going to slide the whole thing off like so. There we go. On mine it kind of came apart a little bit easier. What you've got here is if you need to pull this out and release this from the holder down there, you can. This is just held in like that. It probably loops around like so. And there you go. You freed your throttle cable there. So that carburetor I pulled off is a 12mm Bing off of my blue Puch Maxi, and it's about to go on my red Maxi N, which I just got and I plan to keep stock. The leaky carb in question here is this 14mm Bing with 14mm intake. The numbers on this one are 1, 14, 160. Now I purchased this carb complete. Here's the top right here. You know I shouldn't be reusing these old cables, but I'm a sucker for these original cables because they got these cool oil ports in them. Since this is just a throttle cable, I'll run it till it breaks. I already have a replacement lined up sitting over there when it does, but I thought that was kind of cool, original throttle cable. That should have been an indicator to me how just original this carb was. I was really misled of my own assumptions, about this carburetor because, I mean, that's really clean. And I took the atomizer out and all that and all this stuff in here. No gunk. I mean, this looks really clean. So I thought, maybe this is ready to go. So I slapped on the bike and Leak City. I mean, as I was running, I was losing so much fuel. It was almost comical. I mean, it's obvious there's no O-ring float bowl gasket there. But I thought I'd try it. It didn't work. So today, and this has a little gouge out of it, it still works though. So today, I'm going to be doing everything I can to make sure that this does not leak. This will apply to just about all Bing carburetors. The square one's going to be really different, but on a stock setup, the 12 will be just about the same. So, because I want to get my bike up and running as quickly as possible, I'm replacing everything. But really, you don't have to. I'm going to try and test my components in order and see what's really bad, what needs replaced, and what I probably could have gotten away with not ordering. From the top left here, we have a new float, we have a new top gasket, we have a new float bowl gasket, we have a float needle, which is more likely the culprit there, and this is a fuel inlet banjo gasket. I should have two of these, lost the other one, we'll make do. The one on the bottom is not as bad as the one on the top, so I'll be switching that one out with the top one. Okay, so I'm going to move a little bit quickly here on the disassembly of the carb to get to the leaky repairs. I'll briefly outline it here, but if you'd like a more in-depth pull apart, you can check out my other video. Again, linked in the video description. I'm assuming you've taken the two screws off the top end, pulled out all the guts. Now we're going to open up the bottom. The first thing we're going to check out here is our float needle. Okay, we can see the bottom of our float needle right there. So to get to it, we're going to get this pin out. Like so. Your float will come out with your needle. So there's a look at the float needle that was in there. It's clean, and the rubber tip is complete, and seems like it's in pretty okay condition. Let me place my new one up here. I am going to go ahead and switch it out with the new one, just because I have a new one. But I'm not going to throw out this old one either, in case I get you know, a carb that's completely eroded away the tip or something, I can at least throw that in there temporarily. But yeah, the big things you're looking for is, 1, if it's clean, 2, the condition of the tip, and we're also going to look at the hole where the float needle was sitting in. I'm going to get some carb cleaner, I'm going to clean that out, but I'm also going to be careful that I don't use any really heavy abrasives when cleaning this part. I mean, you shouldn't use like a heavy abrasive on any part of a carb cleaning, but this part especially, there's soft brass in there. Okay, great. So when I spray compressed air or carb cleaner through either hole, it comes through the other side, I'm going to make sure that is completely dry of the carburetor cleaner before I put a rubber tip in there, just so it doesn't cause any damage. Okay, so now we're going to test out the float itself. So to do this test, you're going to need to grab your grandfather's favorite mason jar, and go ahead and get some gasoline in my case I have some premix right here. Okay, and before my space heater blows us all to kingdom come, we'll do this test here. I'm actually going to see if our float floats. Oh. Yeah, it's doing okay. Let's see how it compares to the brand new one. And like I said, I'll just chime in again. I'm not a real mechanic. I'm not claiming to be. I'm just someone who's taken these apart a couple times and hopefully translating the more complicated instructions online to something people can understand. If someone who has more experience than me would like to leave a comment, any helpful insights, please do. I encourage it greatly. Okay, so we're about to start reassembly with all the new gaskets. One of the things that's really critical about your float is the level that it's set at. Okay, and I found that it's really nifty if you go ahead and get this float needle in the float needle seat before you put it in the carburetor, like so. So that way you can kind of just set it down like that. Then you get your pin here. There's one way where it'll go in a little bit easier. I'm trying to get it best in the camera here that I can. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a problem here. So I want this float to be sitting like this, level with the bottom of the carb body. When it fills up, it's not going to stop till it gets, to that point. When you do that, you've got a lot of fuel coming in, and that can lead to the spillage, the overflow, and generally more rich conditions. Now, if the float was sitting like this, too far away from the body, the float would stop there, and you would have less fuel in the bowl, and you would risk, at times, if you were, wide open, taking all the fuel you could, you risk running lean, and that could, lead to a seize and really bad things. There's a really nice write-up. Go ahead and check out the link in the video description. It links to the Moped Army wiki entry for the Puch Maxi, and at the very bottom there's a link to the service manual, and on page 58 of that manual is a page-long write-up about the carburetor. Read through it, or if you don't feel like reading through it, at the very bottom, the last couple lines are all about the float and the float level. Okay, so to fix this, we're going to take the float off again, and there's these two tabs right here, 1 and 2, and we're going to bend those up ever so slightly in order to get this a little bit further away from the bottom of the body. Okay, try to bend these up here just a hair. I'm going to try to get these even here also. And every time you do this, it gets easier and easier, no lie. Alright, that's in now. And alright, a little bit better, still not good enough. Let me go ahead and fool with this here for a little bit and let me get back to you. Okay, I've had this apart and back together so many times, it's more than I can count. I'm having more luck, instead of adjusting these two tabs right here, which you can definitely do, having more luck actually being very careful and adjusting this back part right here up and down, kind of as much as I need to make this lean a bit better. Now I've got it to a position where a little bit too extreme in the other direction. Now when that sits level, you can see I'm too high now. But I'm in the right direction. Next shot I should have this nice and level, nice and parallel. Oh yeah. Oh man, this feels good. Alright, let me get you nice and level here. Oh man, look at that. Yeah, I'd say it's hard to come up on the camera here. Let me see if I turn the light off, if that'll help. Nope. Alright. As you can see, that's pretty parallel. There's about maybe a millimeter or two clearance there. I took probably about 25 minutes to set that. I mean, take your time with this, guys. Oh yeah, also real quick, you can verify that our primer bulb works. So hard to do with one hand, sorry. That's working good. Now, one little annoyance with this replacement float is that it's got this little piece right there. And if you notice, that cuts in ever so slightly where the new float bowl gasket's going to be when I lay this over. And I'm worried that when I screw the bowl on, it's going to push down on that little tab right there and make this go, you know, whoosh. And I don't even know why that little tab is there. It's not there on the old one. There's that old new gasket for you. Ugh. And after another half hour of really tedious work, remember this is my first time doing this kind of thing, got the float even more perfect, and all the old float gaskets out of there, and I even took some needle nose pliers and busted off that nubby end of the needle holder part there. Alright, now we can really do some real reassembly. Alright, so now you may have noticed that there's no jet in the atomizer there. And that is because I'm going to be doing some tuning on this in order to find the right main jet. I'm going to be documenting that hopefully in an upcoming video, how I like to tune. And I'm not totally sure quite what I'm going to start with in there yet. It's really easy to change the jet. You just take the bowl off. I mean, it's worth noting that this O-ring gasket right here is not to keep your carburetor from overflowing. I mean, technically, yes, if you're taking like a really crazy turn and the carb gets turned, but really it's your float here and your needle that really regulate that. Just to keep that in mind. I know a lot of people who've just replaced only this gasket and find they still have problems and they're curious why. Oh, that's why. Just going to do this hand tight for now until I get my jets out. Help that gasket get seated a little bit there. That looks pretty good. Much better than before anyway. Well, with the exception that, I don't know how well you can tell on camera there, but the one on the right is the replacement, and that is way too big. I could sort of make it work, but never mind. Alright, when I put these kind of stuffs back together, I like to take a little Sharpie and just mark where the hole is on both sides of this screw here. That way I can make the holes line up for these two guys. People say the holes don't have to line up, but I like to make them line up because I'm that way. I will give that a try there. Okay, we'll continue here. Sorry if this is something you guys have seen before. Okay. Oh man. Totally almost forgot the top gasket. You know, almost worth it to order two of these. I mean, this is just simple paper. And when you're nearing the end of a project like this, it loves to be the one thing that really rips on you. And it's a good source for an air leak. If you want to see my other video, that's definitely the case. Okay. Alright. Every time you do this, it gets a little bit easier. I should say a little bit more intuitive, actually. Not necessarily easier. Okay, let's go ahead and get this thing back on the bike. So you might find, like I am now, that it's a lot easier to get that top on once you've created tension by attaching that to your throttle. Take note of here that I've got this piece of electrical tape around here because my throttle was never really the same after I had a small wipeout, and that helps keep this mechanism from moving like this. Now your throttle setup might vary because this is not the original one, but you get the idea. Starting with the throttle off like this made it easier for me. Yeah, alright. So make sure you got your brake levers right where you want them, and go ahead and tighten down the screw on your throttle assembly here. So now with that tension, we can hopefully redo the insides a little bit better, because I think my throttle cable slipped out here. Yeah. Now that tension right there, that's what you want. I'm also taking this opportunity to put in some new clear fuel line. It's going to help me watch my fuel flow a little bit better. But if you do this, make sure you get this end on the carb first before you slide it on the intake. Because getting in there and doing this, get this on there, man, this is a pain. Alright, now we're outside on a gorgeous 70-degree day. March has been nice to give us. And we're going to see if this thing actually is not leaking anymore. I'm sure you're just as curious as I am. Well, it's been 10 minutes, there's nothing underneath. You can look right in there. And I don't see anything underneath the carb there. I gotta get my fuel line on more securely. I'll do that until I get back from this ride. But I'm gonna go take her on the block and see how she does. So I'm out here setting my idle screw. I haven't quite hit that sweet spot just yet. Almost there though. And I mean, I went out for a nice 15-minute ride. This carb hasn't leaked at all. It's been performing great. Nothing's on the ground. Nothing, as I can see, is under it there. So now I just got to jet it right, and I'll be set. I mean, it was great having the bike back. It's been down a couple weeks. Well, YouTube, hope you enjoyed that tutorial. I hope that can help you out. And until next time, I'm going to go ride.